Like Chan said, I'm Reagan Helms. I am customer support lead here at PCO, Planning Center, this beautiful building that we're hosting you in. And I have no speaking notes. That's going to suck. Oops. Why does that not work? Hold on. Sorry, I ruined it. Oh, it's probably on mirroring. That's what it is. Sorry. Hang on. I don't know this well enough to not do that.
It's all good. Arrangement. Turn
Mirror
that bad boy
display's
off. And then it's anyone's best guess which screen's going to be the main one.
Up on there?
Yeah,
You guys
so
can
press
watch
play.
my Spotify account if you want. Hey, cool.
Nice.
There it is. Okay, so why this talk? At first it was going to be a talk about our tools here at PCO, like what we use for tools, and then I realized that would probably be very boring to people as technically inclined as you, so I am going to talk about that. I'm just not going to spend all of the time talking about that. One of the things that I wanted to talk about instead, though, is that working here at Planning Center, being my first tech company, I've been here 6 years, it was really surprising to me when I looked around the community of web companies in particular and saw just the huge chasm between their support team and their development team. There are support conferences, for those of you who don't know, and some of the talks were things like how to talk to your developers like they're people. And they are people. So this is kind of a little bit of a culture talk, and with that in mind, I realized that not everything I have to say today is going to apply directly to you. You guys may be a different kind of shop than we are. We're an agile space, Ruby shop. We've intentionally built culture into our building to allow us to all be friends. And so that is something that I realize you can't just turn on or turn off. It's just part of how it is. But I'm going to talk about some of the things that we've struggled with and some of the things that we feel like we do right and why we feel that way. But first, I'm going to talk about the few problems that I see, particularly in the web community, that cause this type of a gap. So if this is your stack, support is normally seen as the thing that you just throw on top of it. This is like the icing on the cake if you do it at all. Or you may have an open forum. You may have, like a person that comes in once a week and does something when you're first starting out. But I feel like the mentality of this is where our work stops and this is where their work starts on both ends is a really big problem, and a lot of companies are just happy to let that be a thing. But I would even argue that there's another layer to this stack, which is where your app is living and dying, and particularly dying if you have really bad support. UX isn't just the proper placement of buttons. User experience is the entire app. There was one of the big movements in web support particularly is this concept that customer experience, not wow factor, is what drives loyalty in customers. And one of the surveys that was taken in a book that I can tell you about later if you are really interested, I won't bore you, is that any customer support interaction, good or bad, is 4 times as likely to drive away somebody or drive disloyalty into a person than loyalty. So this is a huge part of what we do, not just the stack, but the actual support itself. So I think that the first problem is a lack of empathy and mutual respect on both sides. This isn't just against developers. Support sees you guys as the guys that sit in the dark room, type in a bunch of magical things on their computer, and then we have an application. And that's also naive to think. The second problem is, okay, we have good support. They do their own thing. We've made a good application, ship it. And here there be dragons, and we don't bother that at all. And while that's true, you give support a good job. You expect them to do that job. And the dragons just kind of fling fire and shit at everybody. Some of that is good stuff. And some of it is things that need to get back down into the stack for people to know about. And if support doesn't have a good outlet for that, or a way to communicate that back to you, then a lot of your major problems are just kind of sitting there. And I would argue that nobody knows your stack and your app and its pain points better than your support team. You can make the most perfect, flawless thing, and somebody like this is going to come along and find a way to not know how to use it. And you can choose to just let that guy die of thirst or drown. I don't know which one he's going to do. But there's no way for you to know that that's happening if the support team isn't telling you about that, unless you are your support team. So I think that the other problem is a lack of process for feedback back and forth between both camps. And then the final problem is that sometimes that dragon shit just kind of stacks up. And the hot air balloon has sprung a leak, and support's down to a shovel and a half of patch kit. They're not able to do their job well if they don't have good processes that allow them to do that job well, or good tools that allow them to do that job well. And that's something that we've emphasized a lot here and done a really good job at making sure that our support team has the tools that they need to equip them to do their job better through external integrations that we've set up or internal integrations that we've set up that allow us to help kind of clear things out. So insufficient tools for the job is the third problem. Okay, so let's talk about solutions. Our first problem was a lack of empathy and respect. And I think that one of the ways that we can start to counteract that is to make our work visible on both sides. And there are a few ways that we do that here at Planning Center. The first way that we do that is we have internal dashboards that we use. We've gotten that from Shopify. They have a dashing. It's right there on GitHub. And what we've done is on our ops board and on our support board, we have queues for both camps. On the ops board particularly, we just have the amount of tickets that are currently in our inbox. That just lets them know, hey, this is what support is currently taxed with. We have our public response time. Oh, I skipped that one. Oh, no, there it is. And this is just something that we keep internally. This is what we publicly put on our internal help desk to all of our customers. We calculate that out using our Zendesk API to kind of figure out how long it would take a customer to get back to them. And that may be a cultural thing as well. Your internal goals are different than ours. And then the touches that we have, those are actual individual responses and replies, because we measure things in tickets and then in touches. Tickets are one customer's problem, and then the touches are the individual times that we've emailed or called them on that particular problem. So it's just a way for us to kind of internally see, hey, those guys are getting stuff done, we're getting stuff done, everybody's doing their job. Another way that we combat this lack of mutual respect is that we've started including support in our morning stand-ups. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But what this does is two things. The first thing that it does is that it allows support to see kind of behind the curtain, not just get told, hey, this is the new feature, here's the documentation, read about it. They can actually see the process that goes into those things. They can also contribute to the stand-up if they feel like they need to, and what's great about that is that it also allows support to be able to troubleshoot issues that happen due to a particular bad code push or something like that. If you change something and then all of a sudden things start breaking, support notices that a little bit better if they were in stand-up that morning and knew that somebody was going to be pushing something out. The other thing that we've done just across the board is benchmark meetings, which is really helpful for that same type of a deal. When we first started here at Planning Center, there was one application, there was one support team, one dev team, one product management team, and now we have a bunch of different teams, and so it's easy for us to get siloed and not see what everybody else is working on or not appreciate that and take time to pause and look back on that. And that particularly helps support because support is also broken up into two teams here, and so one team doesn't necessarily see what the other products are doing until we have these benchmark meetings, which contributes to that empathy and respect. The second point is just cultivating culture. And I can't really tell you how to do that. That's going to be different for you as your company and what you guys decide that you want to do. But if you look around here, you can see that we make a really good conscious effort as to how we do that. And I can't take credit for any of that. That's all Jeff. And if you are interested in how he chooses to do that, I'm sure that he'll be happy to talk to you about that. And then the last thing that I think that can help with this is encouraging education. I feel like a lot of the time people treat support like that episode of the IT Crowd where they gave Jen license to borrow the internet. There are people like that in the support world where it's like, woo, but for the most part, and particularly here, we intentionally hire people who are smart, capable to do the job, and we want to further that ability and enable them as much as we can. So, getting them a class on Treehouse, Team Treehouse, or whatever it is now, they're all getting acquired, so I don't even know. Basic HTML, things like that just give them kind of a little bit of a knowledge of what coding is, helps them to A, dissect a problem, and B, contribute or appreciate what you do. And then also teaching them things like using the dev tools in a web browser, what the console is. Those are all things that ultimately help further their education in how to be a better support person, but also contribute to that empathy and respect. The other problem was a lack of process, so a way to handle all the stuff that comes in and where to put it so that people don't get burnt out. And the best way that I can think of to tell you about this is just kind of tell you how we do that, because that's all I know. So when we first started, it was me and Aaron, our product manager, and one product. So it was very easy to process things. Aaron was also in support, so it was easy for us to collaborate on what people were talking about, what difficulties they were having, what we could do next. But as that grew to be multiple product managers, lots of support agents, different apps, it was really hard for us to let product managers know what people were saying, and it was really hard for product managers to process that and input that and file that and weigh that. So what we actually decided that we needed to do was create product liaisons, is what we call them, or product specialists is another word for that. And this is more of a, this is kind of just a paradigm that support in web in general is switching to, which is divide and conquer. There's one guy that is the filter for everything that's happening, and they communicate that to the product team, and the product team then implements that in the way that they best see fit. What that allows people to do is just do their job better, and also to not have overlap with issues or things. Everything's compiled nice and neat up the pipeline, so that's really nice. The other way that you can do this is dogfooding. So we have learned this here particularly, and recently we've started doing events in this building where we bring people in to train them on all of our products as a suite. And in doing that, we've used the suite. One, when you're just showcasing a product, you are seeing it as if sometimes for the first time and realizing some of the things that are going wrong. But then also we actually have like a registration software, and people sign up to come to this on that registration software. So a perfect example of this is I wanted to contact a particular group inside of the registration software and not another group. And I realized we didn't have a feature that let us do that. And so that was like, oh, that kind of sucks. So dogfooding is a great way to continue to build into that. Let's talk about insufficient tools. First thing is apps. So if you don't have the right apps, then support can't do their job. If you're still using an inbox for your support team, stop that. Support running from Gmail is not going to be as efficient as if everybody is able to track an issue, tag an issue, look up similar issues, see the history, timestamps of a particular problem. And there are some great help desks out there that will help you to do that. Zendesk is our particular help desk, but some other great ones are Help Scout, Desk.com. Zendesk has a great API, which is why we really like it, and it's kind of the Microsoft of the help desk world, so we're sticking with it. But in addition to Zendesk, we also use Trello for all of our processing. So feature requests, bugs, those all get filed by the support team to Trello, and then the dev team uses that Kanban system that Jeremy talked about a few months ago to process through those. We use Slack for inter-team communications, and then we use Zapier, which is a third-party application that does API integrations. So think like if this then that, but on a much larger scale. And that's a really indispensable tool for us. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in just a bit. The other thing that support really needs is metadata. Support lives and dies on metadata. So if you don't provide them with that, then I highly suggest that you start doing so. Inside of Zendesk, because of their API, we're able to provide our support team with all of this data from any ticket that's submitted from our applications. And this is really helpful when someone's asking, who are my site administrators? Oh, copy, paste, next ticket. Like, it just is indispensable for our team to be able to handle issues without having to jump back and forth between accounts. And I'm sure that your support team has those types of problems that you can help them to fix. So internal integrations are big in that, and metadata is super important. We do the same thing through Zendesk's SDK. So we populate a bunch of information about the device that they submitted from. Customers are super wowed by that when we magically know like how much battery life they had when they wrote us their ticket. And then inside of our admin dash, we also have a bunch of metadata that we've actually just recently added that just help with a bunch of things. People call and they're a billing admin and they're like, hey, when did someone sign up for this? If you don't have that in the app, then it's super embarrassing and difficult for your support team to help get that information to that person. Metadata goes both ways, though. So when we submit tickets as a support team to our dev team, we use Zendesk for all of that. So we require the support team to fill out this form of a summary of the issue, the steps to reproduce, the expected result, the actual result. We just stole this from Apple. When you file a bug with Apple, this is what they have you fill out. And we thought that that was really cool. And Mark actually was the person who just went into Zendesk and he made this up. And then now we just file all of our bugs this way. But what's really cool is that from there, once the agent just works from Zendesk, using Zapier, we're able to create an external integration where Zapier fires off the ticket from Zendesk to Trello, and then from Trello, once that ticket has been processed and the devs have actually fixed the bug and put it on our staging environment, then Zapier runs again and it sends a Slack notification to the agent or the QA person that's supposed to be testing that problem, and then they're able to QA that, put it back onto production, and then we do that same thing again. So Zapier is a really cool and indispensable feature for us, and if you have questions about that, I'd be happy to talk to you about that in a bit. Communication is also key in this part, where so support our talkers, in case you didn't know. And so what we use is Slack for all of our inter-team communication, but then also having the support team go to the Standups. Anything that you can do to cut back on the communication breakdown between your support team or your product liaison and your development team helps your support team to do their job better. It also cuts back on what I like to call the Chicken Little effect, where the sky is falling at any second. And the product specialist is great for that because all of those things come through the product specialist before getting back to your dev team or your ops team. So there's only one person saying the sky's falling instead of 12. The thing that we do with Slack in particular is we have, again, a meta channel for support announcements. So that is different than just a regular support channel where support is talking about issues. Product managers, product specialists, ops guys hop into that support announcements channel, let people know if something is going good, bad, indifferent, so that any major announcements aren't missed. They just have a meta thread of all that stuff. And then the last thing that kind of prompted this talk is support development. A lot of companies, to kind of break down that lack of empathy and respect, what they'll do is something called all-hands support. That's not something that we do here, mostly because we have a huge suite of apps, and it'd be really difficult for a dev to get into our help desk for 1 week and help answer tickets on anything without significant training, and it just isn't worth the time. But what we have done is in recent free weeks, we've had some support projects that we've suggested that people work on. And in the last free week that we had, we tackled like 5 or 6 things that were significant enough to be a good 2-week project, but not anything that we'd actually devote development time to otherwise. And Jeff liked that so much that we've actually put our developers on a rotation. And that rotation is about every other week. We have a dev on for a week. I kind of PM them on the things that need to be done. And we've fixed things that are really small, like our support modal is loading slow enough that people think it's broken, just for probably a half a second. But that impression in itself is just enough time that people are cautious about submitting a ticket through there. We're feeling like less tickets are being submitted through there. We can speed up that loading process a little bit, cut back on that worry. 2 things that are large enough to have slipped through the cracks and kind of affect onboarding a little bit. One of the examples is at some point we created free tiers of our apps, but didn't realize that the receipt emails still get fired off after the 30-day trial, and so people were writing into support going, am I going to get charged for something? I signed up for free. So last week we just had a dev knock that out where we can just uncheck boxes on any automated emails that go out for accounts, and we just choose the free tier is all unchecked, so nobody gets emails about that anymore, and it cuts back on support questions. So it's a really cool concept. It works for our method and, again, for our culture, and it really helps our support team to get their job done faster and cuts back on ticket flow, which is always great. So that's all I got. And that's it. So I can take any questions people have, and if not, we can be
Cool.
done.
You all have questions? One, 2, or 0? Yes.
Any thoughts on the term customer success versus support?
Yes. I think that there's like a big movement to be something that you're not in customer support. Support ninja, guru, master of the universe, instead of just, regular customer support agent. And there's kind of 2 sides of the camp to that. Some people are all about like, we don't want to be known as customer support because customer support sucks. And then other guys are like, well, that is kind of what we are. I fall into that. That's kind of what we are. And we set our own standard for that. But I don't have a strong enough feeling that I should say you shouldn't be called customer success. I think customer success is a great term. We just don't use it. Yeah.
Any others? Yes. 2 questions.
The tools that you're using, I can't remember the name of the 4 of them.
Yeah.
Are those open source tools, or are they services, or pay as you go?
Yeah, they're SaaS, mostly SaaS services. So Zendesk is a paid service. Trello is a free service. Slack is a free service. And then Zapier is a SaaS, but you pay for the number of zaps that they call it. So whenever a process is run. But they have a lot of APIs, and then you can also open up your API to it as well. So if you wanted your support team to develop those integrations instead of your dev team, you could sign up for Zapier and do that. And I think it's like 5 zaps every half hour for free, or you can bump it up from there. One thing too, for those of you that are here that know about Zapier or are watching that I forgot to mention, is that Zapier just did a recent update where they have multi-step zaps. So you can use 3-4 different APIs in one run. Instead of before, when we did that integration, we had to have 6 or 7 different zaps, one for Zendesk to Trello, one for Trello to Slack, one for Slack back to Zendesk. Now we do that all with one zap, so it's a lot cheaper and easier to manage that way too.
Awesome. Thanks, Reagan.
Yeah.
We want to give it